All right, it's the week before the draft. S&L, Landry Locker, Cody Stutes with you. We got a lot of uncertainties. We got a lot of certainties when it comes to the Texans. We'll get into that, as well as the most polarizing position really in the draft the last few years. Seems like we're in a different mindset there, and Texans could kind of be in no man's land. Landry Locker, Cody Stutes with you. Hope you join us the third day of the draft, Saturday at Karbach Biergarten. It's going to be a fun time, 11 a.m. We already got a lot of people coming through, and we hope that you'll be there as well as DraftaMania approaches. Cody, we're approaching the draft. There are many certainties. There are many uncertainties. Let's start with the certainties. What are the certainties that you feel confident, which is dangerous around this time of the year, but what are the certainties that you feel exist with the Texans heading into this draft?
Well, I know they're going to draft an offensive lineman. I don't know exactly when they're going to have that opportunity or when they're going to want to take that opportunity, but I know they're going to draft an offensive lineman. I just can't imagine that the additions that they've made to the O-line are finished, combined with like what's left over out there still in free agency being enough. So I know they're going to draft an offensive lineman. They have far too many guys who are in their last year of their deal or what could be the last year of their deal along this offensive line to not get somebody who's under contract for the next 4 or 5 seasons. So I know they're drafting an offensive lineman sometime in this draft.
Yeah, and I would say I know that they're going to draft more offensive guys than defensive guys in this draft, which
Yes.
might be dangerous, especially with D'Amico Ryans as your head coach, a.k.a. D'Amico without the O. But I think at this point, just based on what they've invested on the defense financially and what they've really done in the offseason, I think it's safe to say, I don't know if they go all offense, but this is an offensive draft. And if it's not, then we really got to hope that this is one of the better defenses in the league. And Nick Caley is one of the smartest guys in the league and even then, if you don't help more on that side of the rock, you're in trouble. But I think it goes without saying that when we put the amount of offensive players versus the amount of defensive players, there will be more offensive players selected by the Texans in the 2025 draft than defensive players.
Well, there freaking better be. Like that, or they better have built the modern version of the 85 Bears, or they better have built that Ravens defense over again. Because you have more spots where you need bodies on offense than you do defense. I'm not going to disagree that there's a couple of places on defense that I'd really like for them to add some more bodies, but not at the expense of offense, not at the expense of this offensive line, this wide receiver room, this running back room, and even this tight end room. Like you've got to be able to add bodies over there on offense. So but I'm with you. I'm certain there's going to be an offensive lineman, and you're certain there's going to be more offensive players than defensive players. And if not, just pull our hair out. That's because it won't make any sense.
I think the uncertainties too. It is S&L, Landry Locker, Cody Stutes with you. Shout out to everyone. Like the video, follow the locker room as well as Cody's channel as well, and get your ass to the party. The 26th, 11 a.m. It's going to be a fun time in the Karbach Biergarten. But I've already started peeping that pizza menu, by the way. Speaking of menus and speaking of uncertainties, so I'm kind of going to connect our certainties with uncertainties.
Okay.
Because I think at number 25 overall, when it comes to drafting either an offensive lineman, as you say, or a skill position / offensive guy, as I say, there is so much uncertainty when it comes to potential value there at the positions that you need the most. That I said this last week, getting out of the first round or trading back would be a dream scenario where you can stock up on those day 2 picks. But there is, like, with the wide receiver position, with the running back position, and with offensive line, I feel like any other year, if those were your 3 needs, you'd be sitting pretty. But in this draft, I can't remember more uncertainty being in that 25 range, needing these positions than I can remember in this draft.
The tough part is you're not going to get a crack at the top guy at either of those spots, and you're not even going to have a chance at the top guy at either offensive line or wide receiver. And you may have an opportunity at a top guy at a position or 2 elsewhere, but the top offensive linemen, they should be gone by 10, 12, and probably 3, maybe 4 wide receivers are off the board before you get a shot at it at 25. So there certainly is some, okay, do I go with the top guard or do I go with the 5th best wide receiver, the 4th best wide receiver? Do I go with the 3rd tackle or do I go with the 2nd or 3rd best defensive tackle? Now, that's not something I would do, but that's certainly a conversation the Texans would have had before they get to ultimately when they pick at 25. And none of these drafts go like there's got to be something that upsets things, that changes things early on in this draft. I don't know exactly what it's going to be. Those spots are 4 and 5 with New England and Jacksonville. The Bears are kind of weird at 10. But there should be some things that kind of upset the expectations. But even then, you're just trying to figure out the 24 guys coming off the board before the Texans. They're going to be missing some guys from spots that they really want by the time they get on the clock.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I kind of want to touch on. And you brought this up, the 5 teams in front of the Texans that create the uncertainty in bulk. And I think Minnesota is, and I ran this by Brian Broaddus the other day, who I respect his film study and everything like that as much as anyone out there at 105.3 The Fam. And he said that's an excellent call on the Minnesota thing where they need a lot of draft picks and you're kind of in no man's land. But even ahead of them, I think is kind of a dangerous area for the Texans that creates a lot of uncertainty and a lot of wild cards. And I want to focus on the 5 before 25 as we talk about uncertainties. And I'm going to let Cody break this down for you here on S&L the week before the draft.
So 20, you've got Denver. And Denver, when you look at what they need, a lot of stuff that, doubles up what you need. The Texans need some running back help. The Texans need some wide receiver help. They could probably use an interior defensive lineman, though I wouldn't advise doing that in the first round. But Denver, for a place where you could take a running back off the board, you could certainly take a wide receiver off the board. If Colston Loveland, the tight end from Michigan, falls to them, he's a potential landing spot. So, again, they replicate a lot of what you need, and they're going to be in front of you in a lot of the rounds that you're making your pick. So if you're thinking, okay, well, I should get past Denver at 20 and, hopefully there's a running back opportunity there in the second round. Well, okay, Denver's in front of you in the next round too. And they don't get a running back in the first round. They're still going to need one in the second round. They're at 51, you're at 58. So Denver is an annoying team. And Denver also is the team right there as the 20s get going, right at 20, that they could start a run on a position. Because let's pretend some of these wide receivers do drift down the board. Okay, well, then Denver snatches one up. Okay, well, the couple of the teams after them probably need wide receiver. Minnesota at 24 is a trade up to get in front of the Texans who need wide receiver. They could start a run as well there at 20 with wide receivers if the wide receivers start to drift down the board. So Denver's really intriguing at 20 because they replicate a lot of the stuff that you could use as well.
Yeah, Denver's the real wild card here, and they're in your tier too. Like this is your tier of trying to take the next step. They're right there with you. They got a young quarterback they feel good about. They kind of feel like they're finding their groove. They feel like they've gotten past the disaster that was the Russell Wilson trade, and they're really just trying to load up. So Denver is one of those wild cards right there at 20 that you don't know what's going to happen. It does feel like, though, just based on what people are saying, which is always dangerous, running back and wide receiver is an area to keep an eye on is early in the draft and late in the draft, especially with Sean Payton.
21 is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, their needs are weird because we think they're going to get Aaron Rodgers at some point. That's not become anything that's official recently. But if a young guy dropped to them at the quarterback spot, or they wanted to jump out there and take the third best quarterback after Cam Ward goes 1 and Shedeur Sanders gets drafted, then that's a spot for them. But they're also a potential running back spot. I mean, they let Najee Harris walk in free agency. So again, another running back team. Now their second round picks over there in Seattle, so you don't have to worry about them as much in the second round. But they also could use a tackle. They also drafted a guard that could kind of play tackle, so maybe they could use a guard. They drafted a guard that kind of played tackle last year, so maybe they could use a guard because they're going to bump that guy out. So again, replication of positional need with 21 at Pittsburgh. They're also a team that could be moving around because if their guys that they don't like are there, they go hauling back, or they're a team that if a quarterback starts to slip, maybe they want to fly up there and try to get a Shedeur Sanders because he's starting to slip in the draft. Be my guest, not something I would advise doing, but Pittsburgh, again, replicates a lot of what you do.
Swarm in the super chat.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Preston says very simply, what's up, guys? What's up, Preston? Hope to see you a couple Saturdays from now at Karbach, 11 a.m. Pittsburgh's interesting. The Shedeur Sanders, there's a lot of steam with the New Orleans pick, the Derek Carr news. So then it becomes Jackson Dart watch, which, man, does Pittsburgh want to do it again? Like that, I don't want to compare Dart and Pickett too much, but it does kind of feel like you're just taking the quarterback just to take the quarterback in the first round, much like they did with Pickett.
Well, and there's a reason Jalen Milroe got invited to the draft. I mean, the NFL decided to invite less players to the draft this year, and Jalen Milroe is one of them. And I've not talked to anybody or seen anything that makes me think Jalen Milroe is a first-round pick.
He's feeling himself, though. He's feeling himself. I saw his interview the other day. I was like, damn, who's this guy?
But if you told me Pittsburgh's going to move down 6, 7, 8 spots, and then they're going to draft Jalen Milroe, okay, I'd advise against that. But if they're going to let a team jump into their spot, and you think about the teams that are behind the Texans or at the top of the second round, okay, a lot of replication and needs with wide receivers, offensive linemen, things like that.
I just feel weird. Like, I'm not comparing the players because I don't think it's close. But much like in 2018, when Baltimore traded with Philadelphia to go up to the back end of the first round and get Lamar, does a team do that with Jalen Milroe? I just think it would be weird. Lamar was a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, and I kind of thought he was getting. And he's a generational athlete. I know Jalen Milroe tests out quickly. He's not like generational athletic quarterback like what Lamar is. But if Milroe goes first round, I'll be shocked. Like I would, if that's going to happen, then more power to you. I'm just glad that it's not something that. I mean, let me put it this way: if Indianapolis wants to do that, have at it. Like it just doesn't. It doesn't seem realistic. It almost seems like a sit around, wait for day 2 type of joint.
Yeah. Well, he's certainly gotten some sort of indication that he's going to go pretty quick in this thing because he's headed up to Green Bay and going to be sitting in the green room. But he might be pulling a Geno and sitting there day 2 too.
Okay. Well, so have fun with that.
So then 20 Denver, 21 Pittsburgh, 22 is the Chargers, and this is to me the most replicating team in the 5 before 25 because they need wide receiver help. They could use a tight end. They actually need a guard as well. Their guard play was not good last year, their interior offensive line. So they need a guard as well. And, well, their coach might just take a defensive lineman because he likes defense. And so the Chargers are really a team that if you're lining up, hey, who do we like? I feel like they also like who we like if you're the Texans. If you're looking at your big board and you're trying to judge and going through a scenario like who's there, who's going to be available, it feels like the Chargers are a team that some of your favorites are going to have to get past before you can select them at 25.
Yeah, and
this is also the first spot if you're inclined to take a guard. This is also the first spot that a guard really could come off the board. This is a Tyler Booker spot. It's a Donovan Jackson spot. It's a Gray Zabel spot. So, if you really want the Texans to get one of those interior guys in the first round, they got to get past the Chargers.
Yeah, and I could also see like a outside the box where the Chargers trade up in front of Indy and take Colston Loveland or something like that. I could sure. I could see like you get in front of them because you figure that they're going to take the tight end and you figure that I think this is a real wild card. And again, I know you kicked their ass in the playoffs, but it's another team kind of right there in your tier.
But this is just a wildly weird thought I had. Justin Herbert feels like the type of quarterback that needs a good tight end. Like, I know, hey, everybody could use a good tight end, but like, it just feels like Herbert would use a tight end like a little bit better than some of the other quarterbacks around the league. And he just hasn't ever had like a really good one since he's gotten things going there in LA. So
I also think you kind of can look at Loveland as a receiver in that he might be the best pass catcher available, like at that time.
I'll tell you what, you want to eat people alive over the middle of the field. You put Ladd McConkey and Colston Loveland on the same team, and
yeah,
the Chargers will be right back in the playoffs. They probably won't be the top team in the AFC West, and they'll be, hopefully playing for their sake a lot better than they played against the Texans this past season.
Yep.
So 20 Denver, 21 Pittsburgh, 22 Los Angeles, 23 Green Bay. Not a lot of replication outside of wide receiver. And Green Bay hasn't taken a first-round wide receiver in 20 years. 20 years since Green Bay's taken a first-round wide receiver. So I don't know. I don't know if they're actually going to take a wide receiver. I don't know if they would do that. Are they a trade-back candidate because they don't typically do that? And with some teams, I would use the history and we would laugh about it and ha-ha. Like Green Bay's so weird about how they operate and they're so stuck in tradition that it almost feels like that lack of an investment at wide receiver is
like
something
a sense of
that's
pride or something. Like, I don't know. Is it stubborn?
A little bit of both, I'm sure.
Because I think it's kind of biting them. Like eventually you got to do it. Like eventually you got to do it. I mean, this is probably not the year though, but I mean, I don't fault people for immediately dismissing the possibility of the Packers taking a wide receiver, because I probably would have rolled my eyes at the dismissal the last 9 years. But at some point they got to do it, right? I mean, I'm not saying there's much nuance in that, but good God, like, I mean, when you watch Green Bay last year, they were a good team, but I mean, they clearly need receivers. It's just, this might not be the draft for it though. This might be the one time where it makes sense.
And that's my thing. If you're Green Bay, if you're looking at these receivers and you look around your wide receiver room and you say, okay, we're going to get another guy that's similar to the guys we have. Like if you're Green Bay, you really need a guy who's going to stand out amongst the wide receivers that you do have right now. Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, and Jaden Reed. I don't know that, like, Emeka Egbuka is not that guy. Like, Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. Like, he's a nice player, but you're just adding to the menagerie of wide receivers. You're not getting a dominant stud at 23, it would seem, at wide receiver. So that's why I feel like Green Bay might wait, just because that's how they've operated. They've had a lot of the same guys in the building for a long time.
Preston on the soup again. Appreciate you. My friend says, I think they're going running back Hampton. I'm assuming he's talking Texans. We'll get into the running backs. That's a perfect alley-oop for us. We'll get to that in a sec.
I wonder if he was saying Chargers.
Chargers very well could. And I think Broncos very well could too. Both of those teams that are in your tier, I could very easily see either one of them taking Omarion Hampton out of North Carolina.
Yeah.
Very easily.
Yeah, I know the Chargers signed Najee Harris, but I mean,
that's not going to stop you from getting someone.
Omarion Hampton. Yeah.
So tonight on the live stream, I'm actually going to break down Omarion versus Judkins and their 2 years as workhorse backs. And there's some variables to it because Judkins did it immediately out of high school, and Hampton kind of got to be like a change of pace guy and then do it. So those are interesting comparisons, and I think it might be something that we need to take a closer look at as we start to break down the back. So I'm gonna get into that tonight on the night stream, 10:30 on the Locker Room channel.
And then 24 in the 5 before 25. Minnesota. And Minnesota's needs don't matter as much to me, because I don't for a second believe Minnesota's picking at 24. I do not believe they're going to pick at 24. There should be too many attractive players, because if you're Minnesota and you've only got 4 draft picks, it's worth taking a smaller haul to move back just a few spots, just so you could pick up some late day 2, early day 3 capital and give yourself some more lottery tickets. So it's not like you have to get some massive haul and move back this giant amount of space, but there are teams that can certainly accommodate them if they want to do that. Most notably, the Cleveland Browns, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and even the San Francisco 49ers with the amount of extra stuff that they possess as well. So there are teams that if they want to jump up from the second round and jump back into the first again, and Minnesota moves out for a big pick haul, they certainly can. And again, a few years ago, this general manager moved from 12. He moved from 12 to 32 to get, and he was the guy that traded with Detroit when they moved back and Detroit came up for Jameson Williams. So they're not afraid to move back. They're not afraid to move back. And
well, they need to. And the other thing I think about Minnesota that makes it even scarier to have them drafting in front of you is I think a lot of these teams, maybe you can put Pittsburgh in this category, but it seems like Pittsburgh's been there for the majority of the Tomlin era. But like normally if you look at like a team from the Chargers to the Broncos all the way to the end of the first round, like the Chiefs and the Eagles, even the Texans to a certain point, like they probably can convince themselves that, you know, we need a couple of pieces here and then we can take the next step, or we can maintain if we're the Chiefs or the Eagles. Minnesota's a brand new football team. Like, I'm not saying they're like all of a sudden rebuilding, but the quarterback that they had last year who kind of was like a hipster MVP candidate the first 10, 12 weeks, he's gone. So you're kind of starting over, and you're almost closer to like the middle teams who need a crap ton of stuff than these teams that think that they're a player or so away. So you combine that with the fact that you only have 4 picks. It's just completely logical to think that Minnesota trades back. Like it's just completely logical to think that they trade back. And I think they're just much different than the teams that we've been talking about, the Green Bays, Chargers, Broncos, Texans, and the teams after.
And here's another element of Minnesota. Think about all the big contracts they have on that team. Justin Jefferson, Christian Darrisaw. They signed 2 offensive linemen in free agency. Hawkinson's making pretty big money. They've got Grenard on big money. Cashman's making good money. Van Ginkel, their other linebackers, making good money. They signed Jonathan Allen. They've got to have cheap guys fill out their roster. And they need cheap talent and cheap labor for the next few years with all those big contracts while they're taking care of things. And yeah, they have the rookie quarterback that they're dealing with as well, so that helps out a lot. But you could use some cheap labor to take over for those guys, because those big contracts, we've seen it. It's a 4-year deal in free agency. Next thing you know, 2 years in, that guy's on another team because it wasn't working out. So Minnesota spent a lot of money, and they need some cheap labor, and they could add some extra draft picks to do that. And that 24th pick, it could be as simple as LA, the Rams, moving up in front of you from 26 to get a wide receiver because they think you're going to take him, or an offensive lineman because they think you're going to take him. There's a number of different places that Minnesota could go with that. I just do not believe with any bit of my heart that they're picking at 24.
Yeah, it would surprise me, quite frankly. Patrick asks this here on S&L: did we settle the Bluebell freezer aisle debate? You did say you were going to go count. You said there were 10 flavors.
To refresh the people, I used Baskin Robbins as an analogy for running backs and said there's a lot of flavors. Landry was critical that I also brought up Bluebell. And then I claimed that Bluebell didn't have as many flavors in the stores as Baskin Robbins did in their ice cream shop. And I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I went to Walmart the other day, and there were 30 different Bluebell flavors in the half gallon. I didn't even count the pints, which I'm sure was a replication of a lot of flavors. So there was a lot.
So the verdict is your analogy sucked, as I anticipated. And
yeah, no, my analogy's good.
I accept your apology.
The analogy's good. I just was wrong about how many flavors Bluebell has.
You brought Bluebell into the mix, and yeah, it didn't work. So it sucked. It's okay. I forgive
I'm about to bring my foot into the mix of your ass if you keep bringing it up.
ESG Soccer on the super chat. Any faith we can evaluate offensive linemen yet? Need my D'Amico poll. Okay. I'm going to ask Nick Caserio about this offensive line evaluation on Wednesday. Nick Caserio, we just got the email alert. He is going to speak on Wednesday. I am going to ask him about this offensive line evaluation and see what he has to say about it, because it has been an epic failure from the time he got here to Wintemico. Are we reevaluating the way that we evaluate offensive linemen? Might be the way that I asked the question. I don't know, but I think Nick is good at answering my questions like that. Like, he is very good at answering my questions like that. He'll give you some word salad. Like, he's not going to tell you what the strategy is, but your offensive line evaluation have there been any changes to it based on the lack of success? So, something like that is how we'll word it.
Yeah, I would tell people for the people concerned about the offensive line, your concerns are absolutely valid.
Yeah.
And the only evidence I could offer that things are different is that Nick Caley is here when he previously wasn't in the building, and Cole Popovich is a bigger voice and frankly was here when they didn't do as many of these offensive. I mean, obviously,
and they made personnel changes.
And they made personnel changes. So, your skepticism is valid. And if your skepticism lasts until they put it on the field for 10 games, 12 games, 17 games, I'll understand that. I'll understand your skepticism. The only thing I can offer you as hope that it's changed is they've got some new faces and some new voices when it comes to this offensive line and this offense.
Right.
And you have to hope that improves things.
That is it. Jake on the soup says, sad face, #Lacey.
I got to imagine that's Kyron Lacey.
Yeah, the LSU receiver.
That story went
crazy, sad.
From the end of the football season to where the story ultimately ended up.
He had that. They were going to do a trial today. Then apparently the cops were called. Just yesterday, and the gun. Yeah, that lot there, man. Lot there.
Yeah.
So there you go. When it comes to that, rest in peace, Mr. Lacey. Let's talk about these running backs. You broke down the 5 before the 5. Let's talk about these backs. We put this number out a couple of weeks ago, and I saw that it's the official number. Over under 2.5 running backs taken in round 1. I think that's a good number. I would say that there's a decent chance that 2 are taken by the time the Texans pick, but I also think there's a decent chance that this goes over. Like, if I were betting right now, I would say over. I think 3 backs go.
Yes, I would bet over as well. And the way it gets there is you've got one of the teams there at, say, 29 through 32 that makes the selection. Now, I'm not saying exactly those teams, Washington, Buffalo, Kansas City, Philadelphia, though KC would be a running back team, but those are all prime spots for a team at the top of the first round to jump back in, steal that extra year of a contract with a running back. And I would, as soon as I can find a place that'll take my money on this, I'm going over.
Yeah, I think the over's safe. Do you think Hampton is on the board when the Texans pick? I guess that would be another question. He's somewhat popular, I think, and I think a lot of him. Although I've kind of started to come around on the possibility of Judkins. Although I think that there's going to have to be some sort of change in where the Texans' second or first draft pick is. Going to have to be somewhere closer than 58. But do you think Hampton is on the board when they pick?
No, I don't believe he will be there. I thought of a new running back team where everybody would just be like, huh? And they get criticized for it, but I'd probably go about supporting it. And it's ironic that the comparison, the pro comp for this player is a player that used to be in their building. Why wouldn't Cincinnati take a running back?
I think it's a possibility.
Their rushing attack was a joke.
I guess the argument would be their defense was so god awful that they need defensive guys. That would probably be the argument.
Their offensive line was awful a few years ago, and they took Jamar Chase, and now it looked like one of the biggest, wins in recent memory. So, like, yeah, your defense is bad, but especially if they're able to trade Trey Hendrickson and get an additional draft haul from that, where they could fill some spots some other places. I mean, Amarion Hampton with the Joe Mixon comp at 17, it's probably a little high for him, but the Bengals have done
you
this
let
before.
Mixon go. You let Mixon go, and you kind of missed the run game. Although they had the nice scat back, Brown doing his thing, but you did kind of miss Mixon. Although Brown was nice.
Like Chase Brown and that guy Zach Moss, who used to play for the Colts, like those guys, and Samaje Perine, that's not exactly a running back room that really gets me excited.
Dietology on the soup says, what happens if a rookie does not sign his deal?
If he waits a whole year, he goes back into the draft the following year. The team gets nothing.
Yeah, it's pretty scaled. It's pretty cut and dry. So there's not really much wiggle room or anything like that. So yeah, it's just sits around for a year and then figure it out.
I don't believe there will be 4 running backs in the first, but I do feel like 3 is absolutely happening.
I think you're talking 4 in the top 40 or our top 45.
Oh, easy.
Yeah, 4 or 5, maybe 5 in the top 45. Maybe more. I think the running back run is inevitably going in the second round, which might make teams more willing to draft on the back end of the first round or trade back in and get that. And that's kind of the problem area with the Texans. So that would be an interesting thing, an interesting thing to observe and an interesting thing to watch. And I think it's a combination of a number of things as to why this has happened. I think what we saw last year with running backs, when they were basically on the hot seat and they were extremely undervalued, I think there's that. And I also think the state of the wide receiver position in this draft, I think that's a thing as well as I think teams are finally catching on to the notion that a running back on a rookie deal, 3 years of impactful running back play is more than worth all of this concern about giving a second contract. Like I never understood why that was not understood. Like, yeah, you might whiff on a running back, but if you get the right one, then you're not saying a damn thing about it. So it was kind of overly scrutinized, and now this is kind of where we are. So we'll see if the Texans get involved in it or not.
I mean, if Hampton's gone, 25's too early for the other guys. Take your choice of who you think is running back 3. Quinshon Judkins from Ohio State, Trey Henderson from Ohio State, Caleb Johnson from Iowa. 25's too early for those guys. So unless you're on the move or you're hoping, praying that they're there at 58, it's tough to see where the Texans are getting a running back in their first 2 picks.
What do you think we're saying, though? And this is kind of I have a question about one of the guys you just mentioned in a second. And if you've been following this show, I think you know where the hell that's going to go, who I've kind of grown a fascination of. But I have that question in a sec. Let's go to the super real quick, though. Super chat. ESG Soccer says we need O-line better because getting season tickets for the first time. Congratulations on getting season tickets.
Well done.
That's an awesome thing for you. I hope you very much enjoy it. And yeah, I think skill position guys can help, but yeah, offensive line. But congratulations on the season tickets. I know that's a great purchase, and I know that's something that can get you through the whole season. And I know that's a sense of pride when you get those season tickets. So salute to you, my friend, for getting those. So I've asked this question in like different forms, and I actually have like the side-by-side comp. But what do you think, like, if in a fantasy world, if Quinshon Judkins, if he never goes to Ohio State and he's just at Ole Miss the whole time, and he's there and he's their lead back for the third year. How are we talking about him as compared to how we're talking about him right now? Because I was talking to my boy the other day, and he was like, and it's previously mentioned Brian Broaddus, but he was like, yeah, the media scouts, I think, are getting a lot of things wrong. And he's like going through a list of things that he thinks that the media scouts, he's not saying that in a condescending way. It's just, you say stuff and then you kind of get surprised, and you shouldn't be surprised. And I just wonder if we're treating this guy as if he never actually carried the load before. So let's say in a fantasy world, he goes to Ole Miss and he does, let's say he's better in year 3 than he was the previous 2 years. And I know Omarion Hampton has 2 years as a full workload back, and it was a great 2 years. But him and Judkins are the same age. Judkins, though, straight out of high school, was the lead back at Ole Miss, and then he was the lead back the next year. And then he went to Ohio State, and he was in a committee. And it feels like we're talking about him as a guy who was at Ohio State in a committee back the whole time. What if he goes to Ole Miss and let's say he has his best year yet? Are we still like dismissing the possibility of this guy being a back into the first round guy? Because I think it's possible.
That's probably the thing that I feel like people who aren't in the NFL get the most wrong about players is they don't use the previous years as much as I feel like NFL teams do. NFL teams, yes, the year before they leave for the NFL is super important. But NFL teams, I feel like, put a lot of stock into what guys accomplished in their first few years in college. And sometimes you use it as a baseline to see how a guy grew. And then sometimes you see, oh, okay, he showcased that when he didn't have to or couldn't showcase it in his final year. Genty's probably one of the best examples of it. He caught the ball a ton, 2 seasons ago. This past season, they didn't throw him the ball. But like you watch 2024, and you're like, well, they're not. He can't be throwing him the ball. And it's like, well, actually, in 2023, they threw him the ball a lot. It's like the NFL teams do a better job of finding those things. I do wonder if Quinshon Judkins is more well liked by NFL teams than he is people outside the NFL.
I just like the closer you look at it, the more it's like, okay, well, kind of feel like, and this is, the guys in the NFL are going to be the one making the picks. It just kind of feels like if this guy goes to Ole Miss and let's say he's continuing what he's doing, and let's say Ole Miss has an even better season, because I think they probably could have used him. And let's say he's, I don't know how many every yard, it's going to be damn near 20 touchdowns. It was no matter what, whether he was carrying the load for Ole Miss or sharing duty at Ohio State. Like, if that's the case, then what makes Hampton so much better than him? That would be, I mean, that's the case. And I like Hampton, but I just, maybe it's too much time on our hands and we're looking a little bit closer at it. But you said Judkins is too early at 25. I'm not disagreeing with you, but if Hampton's not, what separates those two guys? I would say the fact that the last time we saw Hampton, he was carrying the full workload at UNC, and we didn't really see Judkins doing that. We saw him at Ohio State, and he had another running back who we're talking about drafted in that same area. So just something to keep in mind.
I would say that the one of the separators between those guys is a little bit more of the physical ability. Like, I think there's a little bit more agility and a little bit more use of the speed for Hampton than Judkins, but
he's not slow though.
No, I'm not. No, I'm
slow though.
Don't mince my words here. I'm not saying he's slow. I just think that there's probably a better use of speed from Hampton and probably better agility. And, we'll see. We'll see if that Ole Miss Quinshon Judkins is what a team gets, because if they get that, then they're getting a bell cow. They're getting a guy you can put out there for all 3 downs.
Yeah, and that's going to be wild.
If you only watch 2024, you'd maybe say, well, I can't put him out there for all 3 downs, but you'd probably be wrong.
Yeah, you'd probably be wrong because he's shown it before. It's kind of like the Luther Burden thing that we talk about. Preston, again, on the Super, says late first-round running back and 2-round guys are first picks for sure. Wouldn't mind it. I mean, I guess he's talking about the Hampton thing. So,
I mean, like, if they moved back and were able to add something significant on day 2, either in the second or the third round, it makes taking a running back much easier to like accomplish. Like it's going to be hard to do it at 25. If you're 31 because you traded back, or you're 32 because you traded back, or you're top of the second round because you traded back, it's much easier to take a running back.
Yeah, I think the trade back is, I mean, it's the dream scenario. It's just, I think Minnesota kind of, I don't want to say they diminish it, but they make it a lot more difficult because they're picking before you and they need picks. They're desperate for picks. So the trade back can still be alive and well, but Minnesota, they really make that more difficult. And that's kind of like the big hurdle that they have when it comes to perhaps getting out or the trade back.
Yeah, the Minnesota being right there in front of you and a good trade back team. I don't know that there's going to be two players that don't go in the first 23 picks where it's like, okay, some team's trying to get up to Minnesota's pick, they don't get it, and then they come talk to you about. Like, I don't know that that's like,
yeah.
There's not going to be two play and Shedeur Sanders and Jackson Dart like that. I don't believe they're both available at 24, so that you can then get two teams moving up to 24 and then one moving up to 25. So you're going to need a little bit of luck.
And the other thing is, I you say that it's too early to take a running back, but I mean, is it in this draft, knowing that the run is going to be inevitable? Like, are you willing to maybe take someone that you think is probably should go 25 picks later? I think it's possible. I don't know, but it really I think it all circles around who the hell is available at wide receiver. I do think that's probably going to be their starting point. I bet there's one or two guys that they really like at 25. And then I think that's when it circles around. If we're just going off of the visits, there's probably 5 guys on the list that you could say would go at 25. Just off the top of the dome, I would say Hampton, Ibuka, Golden. Yeah, Golden. He's going to be gone. I think you can say
Booker,
and then
I know you don't like him, and I know a lot of people don't like him, but Zabel.
Yeah, Zabel, Connolly. Yeah, I think Zabel goes to the second round, but who knows? But yeah, there's only like 6 just based on visits, which doesn't mean anything because teams draft guys that they visited with in non-30 form. Like some of them, I don't know if there's any like politicking or anything like that, but yeah, I mean, or like maneuvering, I should say, gamesmanship when it comes to not visiting.
No, I don't think there's, I mean, the visits are a very small portion of what you ultimately decide on drafting a guy or not. Like I know Caserio tells that story all the time about, we just, how he treated people, blah, blah, blah. But
you love that story.
He constantly brings it up. That's why I constantly bring it up.
You love that story. No, I think what happens is, when does he bring this up? He brings it up with Payne and Pendergast.
He's brought it up like 6 times since they've drafted CJ.
But like 4 times on Payne and Pendergast. I think they do the same interview every other month.
Okay, well, the GM keeps saying it.
I think that's why he keeps bringing it up. I don't know, but you love that story. That is like your favorite. That is like your good night story. You need to make like a children's book with the Nick Caserio draft visit story for you. I
mean, they clearly decided on one guy versus another, with that being a heavy hand in how they operated. Like, I don't like you make it seem like I'm bringing up some useless piece of information.
No, that would be me. Preston says, F it, the Texans should take the Vikings 24th pick. Would be awesome and keep ours. I mean, don't dismiss the possibility of trading one spot with the Vikings. Like, don't dismiss it. Like, I wouldn't, like, what is it, a 4th round pick or something like that? But like, if they want to protect, like, let's say Ibuka falls and Minnesota doesn't necessarily want to go back too far because they love somebody, like, don't dismiss the possibility of like a 4th to move up a spot. and protect yourselves from that?
I would offer them. I would initially offer them 25 and 89 for 24 and 97. So it's an 8 pick drop.
It's a little flip. Yeah. Don't threaten Nick Caserio with a pick swap. He loves a good pick swap.
Mm-hmm. And then that still gives Minnesota the chance to move back, and it gives the Texans a chance to make a selection at 24, or if they get a good offer, move back.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens there. I mean, there's not going to be any like any quiet, like you're not going to be able to have a sigh of relief until they actually pick. Like the path, as you just talked about with the previous 5, like it's a rocky path to 25, like very, 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 very rocky path.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
So,
And you could, I would tell you that most years chaos is a positive, but chaos might make teams panic and make them do something that they weren't necessarily initially planning to do. So it'll be a nice long wait. It just may not be the most fun wait for as certain players start to, click off the board there.
Nick Caserio will speak on Wednesday at noon. Also Wednesday at noon, we got a big day. 8:00 right here. John Harris, live draft stuff. You've never heard Harris in this format. He doesn't do other web shows. You probably only hear him on Texans radio and whatnot, but he puts in a lot of draft work, and a lot of people were big fans of the stream last year. We did it on my channel. That was before S&L came about. But we're going to do it right here, 8:00. It's one of the peak moments of the draft process, and John Harris kind of a night owl, so we'll go extended. We'll go into the locker room at 10:30 still, but we're gonna have probably a 2-hour special here with John Harris and cover all ground, any and all ground. No winging it. We'll wing it to a certain point, but we'll answer all the questions about the prospects with John Harris, and that will be 8 hours after Nick Caserio speaks.
Wait, are you telling me that we're not going to ask him a question and then before he answers say, I have a follow-up, John? Yeah, who's your third favorite tackle in this draft? And I have a follow-up.
That's my pet peeve, because it's not a follow-up. It's I have 2 questions.
Will we get I have a follow-up tomorrow? I mean, on Wednesday, I mean.
A follow-up is based on an answer. 2 questions is based on previously 2 questions. Follow-up is like, I'm not listening to your answer. I'm going to ask a question right after. Well, my journalism pet peeves, which you brought to the forefront here. What do you want to hear from Caserio? I want to hear about this offensive line evaluation. He's not going to give us any specifics about prospects. We know that. There's going to be a lot of word salad there.
I want to ask about, and I may just present the facts to him and say, almost every draft pick you've made has been from a Power 5 or a Power 5 or Power 4 school. Is that a requirement for how you approach things? I mean, they got to fine tune that a little bit, but he's made one selection outside of Power 4, Power 5. One since he became a general manager. Like that's gotta be the lowest in the league.
So you're going to ask him about non-Power 5 guys?
Basically.
So you're basically asking a Gray Zabel question.
Well, no, there's other non-Power 5 guys that'll be interesting on day 2.
Non-Power 5. Yeah, that I think they definitely like big school guys. They definitely lean that way. And I don't know. I think it's just, I don't know if it's like a philosophy. I just think it's based on prospects. That's what he'll say. Well, we look at all the prospects the same, and sometimes they're from a big school, sometimes they're not. Back in New England, we were able to find Julian Edelman, who was a small school guy, and we also found Danny Woodhead, and there are a lot of guys, blah 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 blah. So there's your answer for your non-Power 5. You got it right here.
Okay, well, you want me to play Nick Caserio and answer whatever stupid offensive line question you're going to ask?
I mean, your offensive line evaluation, like is what has been the problem with your offensive line evaluation, and is there concern about the evaluation of the offensive line? I think that's like that he has to answer that.
Well, he's going to say there's not a problem.
Okay, then that will be something to roll with.
Yeah,
but I just gave you the non-power 5. He's going to give you Julian Edelman mention, and then he's going to give you.
Yeah, well, those examples are 20 years old. I care about his time as general manager.
He does that all the time.
I care about his time as general manager. Maybe it's a question about the level of competition the guy faces.
He might ask that. Let's talk about the Colts and the Jags, the layout. These are two interesting squads. I have no idea what the hell Jacksonville's going to do. In Indianapolis, it feels like they want a tight end. They want Tyler Warren. Doesn't seem realistic. And then there's the Colson Loveland possibility. What is the worst case scenario for the Jags and the Colts?
Worst case for them or worst case for the Texans based on who they get?
Worst case for the Texans from a localized POV.
Oh, well, then the worst case is Ashton Genty at 5 and Colston Loveland at 14.
The Genty thing seems real.
Mm-hmm.
The Genty thing seems very real. But New England is the other team to keep an eye on. The Genty thing seems real with New England too.
I mean, that'd be fascinating. But if you're Jacksonville and you're thinking, okay, well, maybe I could move around in the top 10 and maybe still get Genty. Well, you really can't because you got to think about Vegas at 6.
Yeah, no.
So you got to just kind of sticking and picking.
Yeah, it's the last time we saw a running back go this early. Was it Saquon? Like top 4? Am I mistaken?
I can tell you. Give me a second.
I know Saquon was very early.
Bijan went 8.
Bijan, yes. Bijan went down to 8. I don't think Genty's going to 8.
And Bijan went 8, and then Barkley went 2 in 2018.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of crazy because I don't want to say that Saquon's directly connected to this, but coming off what Saquon did, this does feel like I look.
Well, Baselli's calling the shots too. Like it's like an old
GM. Baselli's the GM.
It's like an older school guy who actually makes the decisions. I know the nerdy kid from the Rams is considered the GM, but Baselli's calling the shots.
Yeah. So Genty, I don't know that I would be shocked if Genty got past the Raiders. But all right, let me put it this way.
If Genty gets past the Raiders, then I don't know where he's going.
He's not getting past Dallas.
Yeah, but I mean, I would tell you that Carolina has an argument to draft him. I would tell you that Chicago has an argument to draft him. And then I would tell you Dallas has an argument to draft him. And then not to mention some team might be feeling themselves trying to jump up in there and draft him.
Well, I also think that I could see 2 backs going in the top 10. Like I could see Chicago just taking Hampton and saying, screw it. We're trying to put a super team around Caleb Williams.
Sure. Now they have pick 39 and pick 41.
Yeah.
So if they want,
and that might even be no man's land though. But I don't know when this running back run happens.
Well, 39 and 41 allows them the ability to move around and go get a.
Yeah, they can move up. They can trade up with those. You have those 2, you can move up like a mofo. God, that would be sick. What if they fall in love with someone at 25 and they want to give you 39 and 41? Good God, thank you.
That'd be nice.
That's a dream right there.
The Texans would have 39, 41, 58, 79, and 89 on day 2.
Hey, y'all have tried to make some moves with the Bears before. Let's make it right. They can come up to 25 and get the guy of their dreams, and then the Texans get 39, 41, and day 2 is the best draft day that I can remember.
I mean, we can get you a running back, we can get you a wide receiver that you actually like, get you a couple of my guards. We'd be rolling then. That's a dream.
ESG Soccer on the suit. My O-line question on was not stupid, Studi.
Yeah, no, I think he's just making a joke here because I said your stupid O-line question. You call my question stupid. No, his O-line question is a good question.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I'm lost on that, but
he asked about the confidence in the O-line.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Not a ton for sure. But yeah, I definitely the running back something to keep an eye on. I kind of wanted to touch on something before we get out of here, not necessarily to showcase it, but the Jalen Pitre extension that we talked about last week, and they made him the highest paid nickel, and I guess it's been passed now, but it's actually a true cornerback. It's not Pitre. Do you like another angle of the Pitre extension that I don't think got talked about enough is in a world where like the durability of running backs often comes into question, and you talk about wear and tear and you talk about durability and stuff. And I think you brought this up a little bit, like to a certain point. Does the fact that Jalen Pitre is kind of a small safety playing close to the line of scrimmage, that's kind of a hybrid, like how does that travel with 3 more years of playing the position? Because we've seen him play the position in the NFL for 10 games, and he ended up getting hurt. The guy that came in for him didn't want to play that position because he wanted to prolong his career. When he did play that position, he got hurt again, and he gets hurt a lot in Jimmy Ward. The ultimate example of this type of player on steroids, and he did a lot more than this, was Bob Sanders. Bob Sanders was one of the most impactful defensive players of his era, and he couldn't hold up playing the close to the line of scrimmage. Tyrann Mathieu, another example of a guy who got kind of roughed up doing the same type of thing. Like, does like the durability of that position, like shouldn't you almost look at that like running backs were getting looked at a while ago? Because it just seems like that's another thing that comes into account. And the other thing that I always heard, like from the running back POV, was, well, you can find these guys in the draft at any time, and you don't want to pay the running back, $10, $8, $9 million. This is a pretty friendly draft when it comes to finding those type of guys at safety and the nickel, like even on day 3. So do you think that is another like element of this discussion? And we don't have to revisit the discussion, but I do think that it almost has like an investing in a running back type of feel that was very frowned upon not too long ago.
Durability is certainly a concern when you think about the way that he plays the game. And if they approach it the same way they approach running backs, well, they don't focus on running backs very much. So you have your answer. They don't take everything into account when it comes to running backs. So they do not have a backup for Jalen Pitre for that position either, because I don't believe Jimmy Ward's going to be on the final 53 man. And so, they want to play football that way. That guy did not survive the physicality of that position last year, and he still got the contract extension, whereas he was still going to be on the team this year no matter what. And you could have invested in a backup for him, and they did not. So they're putting a lot of faith in Pitre paying this thing off, and if he doesn't, it's going to alter the way that they play defense.
Strong Arm says, is the stream with John Harris coming this week? It is Wednesday at 8. What a nice guy John Harris is, by the way, for doing this, because he doesn't do these things. It's also like the best version of him. But just to pull back the curtain, show what kind of fellow that John Harris guy is. So his daughter is a big actress, and she's in New York. And I know he loves her very much, but she's chasing her dreams. So he's not with her full time. He told me, because he'd already said he was going to do Thursday. I texted him over the weekend, and he was like, hey, my daughter's coming in town on Thursday. So we can do it early or a little bit later if you want. And I was like, dude, just move the day, bro. We're okay. We can move the day. And he moved the day. So this is the best version of John Harris. It's going to be the best information you can get. So that'll be 8:00 on Wednesday, right here on the S&L channel, followed by Nick Caserio reaction at 10:30. And we'll still do our normal 4:00 time too, if Stutz is up for it. I don't know.
What is this? Stutz is up for it? Bullshit.
I'm just asking if Stutz is up for it.
What is this? Stutz up for it? But what if you're not up for it?
I'm up for it, man.
I'll be here at 4:00 Wednesday, bitch. Where are you going to be?
I want to be here at 4:00 Wednesday.
Why are you poking me today?
I'm not
I had a great Monday till I got on here and you started giving me shit. Your Baskin Robbins analogy stupid.
What was? It was
You're
proven stupid
oh
because
you're
you thought we
gonna ask
all did it.
Caserio a stupid question.
Well, I mean, small stuff.
You're a punk. You're not gonna be here at 4:00
I just
Wednesday.
But hey, I just asked if you wanted to do double. I was just curious. What is the best type of brews? What is the best type of brew? Like the beer, like shower beer after a workout. Like what is your favorite type of beer?
I think, oh man. First beer after you do like a little power nap on Friday before you're going out Friday night.
Draft beer is the best. Shower beer goes in, but draft beer is my go-to.
Dude, I do prefer draft beer to just about any other version of beer.
Yep. Beer and shower goes in. Speaking of which, Karbach, 11 a.m.
Drafts and draft.
Drafts and draft. We got you. April 26th, 11 a.m. The Biergarten pizza place is popping. So we'll be out there to react to the super streams in the first 2 days of the draft and then that. So if you're coming through, let us know. We got some stuff. We got some stuff planned. So
yep.
Bada bing, bada boom. They got a lot going on there too.
Put it on your calendar. Don't miss it.
Don't miss it. And as I said the other day, behind Cody's back, try not to get in line behind him at a brewery because he is a sample. Can I sample that beer type of guy? So just be careful. Don't get behind him in an ice cream shop or there.
No, you're just lying about me. Just lying about me. I know exactly what to get.
Let me try that, please.
That's the beauty.
That one. Oh. Smack the lips together, let you know.
You're just lying to the people about me.
David White says that bitch was smooth. Yeah, that was a smooth one, man. By you. SBS, sample beer stouts.
Yeah, that's just a lie.
You are a Baskin Robbins sample guy, though. Let's be real.
No, I'm not. We've had this discussion. I get the same thing every time.
But you've never tried something with a small spoon.
Of course, I've tried a sample at Baskin Robbins.
Sample guy.
Oh, this wouldn't hold up in the court of law. This is stupid by you. Oh, have you ever tried a sample? Yes, I've tried a sample at Baskin Robbins before. Oh, so you must try lots of samples every time. No, I get the same thing every time I go.
Sample beer guy. Shout out to you.
You're a dumbass.
Harris, 8 p.m. right here. It's going to be a super bundle of information. We look forward to that. It is finally the week before the draft. Locker room live stream, 10:30. We will dive into that. Cody's got his thing going as well on his channel, as well as on Houston football. Subscribe, like, ride along. Always remember, when it comes to this Texans stuff, we're all in it together.
Eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.
He's the reason they put up the sign 2 samples per person, by the way.